Have you ever tried to forget someone, but it felt like they lived inside you? You wake up thinking about them. You fall asleep, replaying everything that happened. And even after all they put you through, there's still something that keeps you tied to them. It's not love. It's attachment. It's not longing. It's an open wound. You try to move on, but it feels like you're being pulled back, as if you need one last conversation, an apology, a "I'm sorry" that never came. And then comes the worst feeling of all, doubt. Am I being weak for still feeling this way? Am I being a coward for wanting to let go? If this sounds like you, then this video is for you, because today we're going to walk together through a deep and necessary journey. How to let go of someone who hurt you without losing your dignity. You won't hear empty phrases here. You won't get the shallow "time heals everything" talk, because you know it's not that simple. What you'll find here is Stoic philosophy applied to your real pain. Ancient wisdom from thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, who experienced loss, rejection, betrayal, and found, through silence and reason, the strength to break free. In this video, you'll discover how to stop clinging to the pain without denying what you feel, how to forgive without humiliating yourself, how to let go with self-love, not with anger, and how to use all of this to rebuild a stronger, freer version of yourself. This isn't just a story about someone who hurt you. It's about you finally choosing to be whole, even without the one who broke you. If you're ready for this silent and powerful transformation, stay until the end, because this might be the last time you ever look back with pain. From now on, you'll look forward with clarity. Accept the pain without clinging to it. You don't have to conquer the pain, but you do need to stop fighting it. There's a subtle yet deep difference between feeling pain and becoming the pain. When someone hurts you, the wound isn't just in your body or your heart. It touches your pride, your memories, and most importantly, your peace. And that's exactly where Stoicism comes in, with a kind of wisdom most people have never heard before. It's not things that hurt us, but our opinions about them. This quote by Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, works like a key. It doesn't erase the pain, but it opens the door to freedom. Accepting the pain means letting it exist without letting it control your life. You don't have to pretend everything is fine. The Stoics never preached emotional denial. What they taught, and what many people forget, is that suffering begins when we resist what has already happened. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote in his journals, "If you're suffering because of something external, the pain isn't caused by the thing itself, but by your perception of it, and that you can change right now." It's hard, I know. When someone hurts us, our heart wants revenge or justification. It wants answers. It wants to understand why. But the Stoic doesn't chase answers. He seeks understanding. He realizes there's a space between what happens and what he feels. And it's in that space where freedom lives. Breathe. Feel the pain, but don't cling to it. Don't turn your wound into your identity. Don't make suffering your permanent address. Pain may visit you, but it doesn't have the right to live inside you. Stoicism teaches us that everything is temporary. The good moments, the bad ones, the affections, and those who affect us. Clinging to pain is like trying to hold on to smoke. You only end up choking. The first step to liberation begins when you say, "Yes, this hurt me, but I am not this hurt." And when you understand that, something shifts inside you. You begin to realize that forgiveness isn't about making excuses or forgetting what happened. It's the next step in your journey. That's why, right after accepting pain without attaching to it, the next Stoic teaching appears, just as freeing as the first. Understanding that forgiving isn't forgetting, it's freeing yourself. Because letting go of someone who hurt you doesn't happen all at once. It's like removing an anchor from your heart. And the first chain to break is this one, the resistance to a pain that has already happened. If that made sense to you, if something inside you woke up while reading this, share it with me in the comments. Right, I am a Stoic. My dignity is sacred. By affirming your strength, you'll also inspire others who are going through exactly what you've been through. Sometimes, one sentence from you can be the courage someone else needs. Let's build this chain of awareness and transformation together. If this resonated with you, keep going with me. In the next part, we'll dive into Stoic forgiveness, not the kind that asks you to pretend nothing happened, but the kind that frees you from the weight someone else left behind. And that's when you finally begin to walk lighter. Now breathe. You've already taken the first step. Understand that forgiveness is not forgetting. It's setting yourself free. Forgiving is not about giving someone a reward. It's about unlocking a prison, your own, after you accept the pain without clinging to it. As we discussed in the first step, comes the second challenge, forgiveness. But not the kind of forgiveness you've heard in cliches or empty advice. We're talking about the forgiveness rooted in Stoic philosophy, which understands that inner freedom is more valuable than emotional justice. Epictetus, the slave who became a teacher, once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It begins within." When you forgive, you're not saying what they did was right. You're saying, "This no longer has control over me." And that decision, although it may seem simple, is the most powerful turning point in your emotional life. Because as long as you're stuck in resentment, the person who hurt you still controls you, even if they're gone, even if they never speak another word. Resentment creates an invisible chain that pulls you back to the past, to repetitive thoughts, to imaginary conversations where you say everything you wish you had said but never did. The Stoic doesn't waste time feeding ghosts. He faces what happened, accepts what hurt, and lets go of what binds. Marcus Aurelius, in his work Meditations, wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike those who harmed you." And what could be more different than being free while the other remains trapped in their own ego? Forgiving is a way of saying, "I am more than this pain, and you are. You are more than someone's mistake, more than a disappointment, more than an absence." But knowing this rationally is not enough. You need to decide to stop carrying the weight that doesn't belong to you. The great trap of emotional suffering is that it disguises itself as strength. You tell yourself, "I won't forgive because I'm not weak." But while you say that, you carry armor made of resentment on your chest. The Stoic understands there is no dignity in holding on to poison. There is dignity in being light, and more than that, in choosing your own peace, even if the other person doesn't understand. Forgiveness is an act of power. It doesn't depend on an apology. It doesn't depend on the other person acknowledging their mistake. It's a silent, personal, and profound choice. You hurt me, but you will no longer live inside of me. And when that forgiveness is real, something magical happens. You get your energy back. You begin to see yourself again. You reconnect with what matters and with who you can become. But before you can transform, you need to let go. And that brings us to the next essential point. Don't seek closure from someone who never tried to understand you. Because as long as you look for answers in someone who doesn't even know how to listen, you'll stay trapped in circles of frustration. And Stoicism teaches you the control you're looking for lies in no longer expecting something from where nothing will come. If this message is helping you see more clearly and break the silent cycles that drain you from the inside, leave a like. That way, I'll know this kind of reflection is meaningful to you, and I can keep bringing content that truly supports your journey. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time. Every week here, you'll find direction, awareness, and strength to turn pain into wisdom. Because the purpose of this channel is simple, to help you step out of the shadows with lightness and clarity. If this resonates with you, take a deep breath and keep going. Forgiveness doesn't erase the story, but it frees the main character to write a new chapter, and you are that main character. Don't seek closure from someone who never tried to understand you. You don't need a final chapter to move on. This is one of the hardest and most freeing truths that Stoic philosophy teaches us. Most people spend years waiting for something that will never come. Answers, explanations, validation, apologies. But how do you forgive someone who won't even admit they were wrong? How do you let go if you feel like you still need a final conversation, a proper closure, or an honest talk? The truth is, closure doesn't depend on the other person. It depends on you. Epictetus, with his direct wisdom, said, "What's outside your control is none of your concern." Waiting for someone to bring you peace is giving them the power to decide when or if you will heal. And the person who hurt you, most of the time, has no interest in being the cure for the pain they caused. Stoics don't live waiting for emotional justice. They live in reality, and the reality is clear. Some people will never acknowledge what they did because they don't see it, because they don't want to, or because they can't face their reflection in the mirror of guilt. Seneca, another giant of Stoicism, wrote, "As long as you depend on something external to be well, your peace will remain a prisoner." You need to free your mind from the idea that the end of the story has to be beautiful for you to move forward. Not every book has an epilogue, and that's okay. What matters is what you've learned, not what was left unsaid. Seeking closure from someone who never tried to understand you is like trying to write with a pen that has no ink. You only end up frustrated, worn out, and worse, you keep alive the illusion that your healing depends on someone else. But it doesn't. It never did. Your closure is internal. It happens the moment you stop reliving what broke you and begin rebuilding who you want to become. And here comes another Stoic lesson. You don't need to defeat the other person. You only need to overcome yourself. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength to accept the silence, strength to live without answers, strength to move forward even with unfinished sentences, broken promises, and apologies that never came." And right at this point, the next insight arises, the difference between pride and dignity in goodbyes. Because once you stop seeking explanations from those who don't care to offer them, you'll face a quiet decision. Will I walk away with my head held high, or will I beg for something that's never coming? And Stoic philosophy is here to remind you, dignity is not wounded pride, it's mature self-love. Stay with me on this journey. You don't need the last word, you need the last choice, the choice to take care of yourself. When you're ready, say next, and I'll continue with topic 4, the difference between pride and dignity in goodbyes. Let's elevate this narrative. The difference between pride and dignity in goodbye. Pride is loud, dignity is silent. A lot of people confuse the two. They raise their voice, slam doors, try to prove a point, and believe that's a dignified goodbye. But in truth, it's just wounded pride pretending to be strength. True dignity, as Stoicism teaches, is quiet. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need recognition. It happens when you choose to walk away without lowering yourself, without begging, and without seeking revenge. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic master, said, "Dignity consists in doing what is right, not in appearing to do so." So what is right? It's honoring who you're becoming, not clinging to what someone else broke in you. Pride screams, "You're going to regret losing me." Dignity simply thinks, "Even if you don't see it now, I deserve more." And yes, leaving someone who hurt you can trigger all kinds of doubts. Am I overreacting? Should I give it one more chance? What if it was just a mistake, a rough patch, a human flaw? But here comes the wisdom of the Stoic philosophers. It's not about reacting to the other. It's about acting in alignment with your own values. Epictetus said, "If you want to be good, begin by believing that you are enough." And believing, that is the beginning of dignity, because then you start to leave relationships, situations, and conversations that don't respect you, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Clarity that staying out of fear is cowardice, and leaving with dignity is courage. Pride wants to win a battle. Dignity wants to protect your peace. And that's the key to the next step in the journey. How emotional attachment creates invisible prisons. Because even after walking away, many people remain emotionally chained. They keep reliving moments, rereading messages, imagining different outcomes, all for one reason: the attachment is still alive. And that's where Stoicism comes in with full force, to show us that true freedom begins when you release what's still holding you from within. You can leave and still be trapped, or you can be free before you ever leave. The choice is yours. But remember, it's not the noise of your goodbye that defines your strength. It's the silence of your decision. How emotional attachment creates invisible prisons. It's not always love that keeps you stuck. Sometimes it's the attachment to what you imagined. Many people believe they're suffering because of someone, but what really hurts is the idea they created of that person. Emotional attachment is deceptive. It doesn't show up as a chain. It comes disguised as hope, nostalgia, a beautiful memory. But behind all of that, there's a silent pattern. You can't move on because you're still attached to something that no longer exists. or maybe never did. Stoic philosophy teaches us to face reality as it is, not as we wish it were. Epictetus said, "Don't cling to what is temporary as if it were eternal." Attachment turns a memory into a prison. An old message becomes a chain. A song becomes a cell. You wake up thinking, go to sleep, remembering, and live trying to rescue a past that hurts you, but for some reason, you're not willing to let it go. And this is where the Stoics come in, with the blade of reason. Seneca wrote, "As long as you intensely desire what is gone, you remain a slave to what no longer exists." Emotional attachment is not love. It's the refusal to accept the end. It's the illusion that if you think hard enough, the story will change. It's the self-deception that makes you wait for someone who's not coming back, justify the unjustifiable, and romanticize moments that were, in truth, destructive. Stoicism doesn't deny the feeling. It corrects the illusion. Marcus Aurelius reinforces this with clarity. Accept everything that comes to you and hold on only to what is within your control. What is outside your control? The other person's decision. What happened? What was said and done? What is within your control? What you choose to think now. What you feed in your mind. How willing you are to release what holds you back. Attachment is like being locked in a cell with the key in your own pocket. But many people prefer the comfort of familiar pain over the freedom of uncertainty. And that's why letting someone go without losing your dignity requires one more step, breaking the attachment and making room for something new. There is no emotional freedom with the weight of the past on your back. And you don't need to carry all of it with you. You don't need to hold on to that person in your thoughts, your memories, or your idealizations. Letting go is not forgetting. Letting go is choosing to stop carrying what's holding you back from moving forward. And that brings us to the next point, practicing Stoic silence as an act of strength. Because after breaking the invisible ties of attachment, you need to learn how to handle the emptiness that's left behind. And silence is where the Stoic grows stronger. Letting go of attachment is like cleansing the soul. It hurts, but it sets you free. And true freedom begins the moment you choose not to be a prisoner of the past anymore. Practicing Stoic silence as an act of strength. Silence isn't always empty. Sometimes it's full of answers. After you break emotional attachment, a new space opens up inside you. A strange, quiet, even uncomfortable space. And it's precisely in that silence that Stoics become unshakable. Stoicism teaches us that we don't need to react to everything. We don't always need to respond to prove a point or to explain ourselves. Sometimes, real power lies in saying nothing at all. Epictetus firmly reminds us we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, to listen more and speak less. And more than listening to the world, the Stoic listens to themselves. In silence, they find clarity. In stillness, they find direction. In the absence of noise, they find strength. But what do most people do? They shout, they beg, they write long messages, they reach out. They want to be heard at all costs. They want the other person to understand, to see, to acknowledge. And when that doesn't happen, the pain turns into desperation. But Stoic silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. It's when you decide you no longer need to chase anything to validate your pain. It's when you understand that the absence of a response is a response. Seneca once said, "Nothing is more admirable than the person who remains calm in chaos." Practicing silence isn't staying quiet out of fear. It's staying quiet out of mastery. It's knowing your energy is worth more than any argument. And here comes a truth that Stoicism makes very clear. Not every confrontation needs to happen. Not every battle needs to be fought. You can simply walk away with dignity, no noise, no drama, without losing your essence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul remains unconquered when it chooses not to be affected." And sometimes, the greatest sign of strength is silence. The silence of someone who refuses to stoop low. The silence of someone who knows their worth. The silence of someone who no longer needs to be understood, only to be free. That silence in practice is where you begin to rebuild yourself. Because when you quiet the world, your inner voice can finally be heard. And it says, "I'm here. I survived. Now I will grow stronger." And it's at this point in the journey that true transformation begins, turning loss into self-knowledge. Because once you learn to be silent, you start to look inward, not to blame, but to understand, not to punish yourself, but to grow. Stoic strength isn't about shouting louder. It's about keeping your peace when everything around you is screaming for you to explode. It's leaving the stage with the same elegance you entered, and knowing that in silence lies your freedom. Turning loss into self-knowledge. You didn't go through this for nothing. No matter how much it hurt, no matter how much it shook everything inside you, this loss came with a hidden gift, a gift that your eyes can't see at first, but that time and silence eventually reveal self-knowledge. After Stoic silence comes reflection, and it's in that moment that you start asking yourself, why did I allow this? What is this pain trying to teach me? Who was I before all of this? And who am I becoming now? These questions aren't easy, but they are necessary, and that's why the Stoics believed that adversity is the soul's greatest teacher. Marcus Aurelius, even as an emperor, wrote in his most vulnerable moments, "Loss is nothing but change, and change is the nature of life. You didn't lose for nothing. You were simply redirected." And Stoicism teaches us that real power doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from using pain as a stepping stone. Seneca reinforces this by saying, "No wind is favorable to the one who doesn't know where they're going. But when you lose something or someone you thought was essential, you begin to look inward with more honesty. You begin to see blind spots, repeating patterns, wounds you had been ignoring. And then something magical happens. Pain starts to turn into wisdom. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? That shift is pure Stoicism. It's when you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as the author of your own healing. Epictetus said, "No adversity can harm you without your consent." And it's true, because pain itself is only the beginning. What you do with it defines the end. Turning loss into self-knowledge means looking at the wound and saying, "Thank you for showing me where I needed to grow stronger." It means accepting that the person hurt you, but you were the one who stayed. It means admitting you expected more from them, but now you choose to expect more from yourself. And when you do that, you start to rebuild yourself in a new way, more aware, more grounded, more aligned with the person you want to become. And that leads us to the next step on the journey, letting go of the need for approval from the one who hurt you. Because once you truly know yourself, you no longer seek validation from the one who invalidated you. You no longer rely on praise from the one who criticized you. You no longer need the presence of the one who hurt you in order to feel whole. The pain was the portal. The silence was the guide. Self-knowledge is the path. And from this point on, you begin walking on your own without begging for crumbs from those who never saw your worth. Letting go of the need for approval from the one who hurt you. Nothing hurts more than seeking validation in the place that once invalidated you. After turning loss into self-knowledge, a new challenge arises, perhaps the most subtle and deceptive of all, the silent need to be approved by the one who hurt you. You may have already walked away, you may have stopped messaging, may have said goodbye, but deep down, you still hope that person sees your worth. You want them to regret it, to admit they were wrong, to recognize what they lost. And that silent waiting is a prison most people don't even realize they're in. The Stoics would call it emotional self-slavery, because you're placing your self-esteem in the hands of someone who couldn't take care of you or themselves. Epictetus warns us, whoever seeks approval from others becomes a slave to their opinions. And that's exactly it. As long as you need validation from the one who rejected you, you'll be trapped in a cycle of anxiety, dependency, and self-sabotage. You'll shape yourself to please. You'll hide your pain to appear strong. You'll become a hostage to the hope that one day they'll look at you with the eyes you always wanted. But the hard and liberating truth is, you don't need that. You never did. Seneca wrote, "Happiness lies in not needing the praise of others." The Stoic doesn't act to be admired. He acts because it aligns with his principles. He doesn't need to be seen to have value because he sees himself from within. And that's when real healing begins. When you stop seeking acceptance where there was only rejection. When you understand that your worth is not in someone else's eyes, it's in your own. Marcus Aurelius reinforces this. The soul becomes invincible when it stops desiring what doesn't depend on it. You no longer need someone to say you were special. You no longer need to prove that you're enough. You already are. And when you break that invisible bond, something inside you reorganizes. Peace returns. Your energy comes back. Your presence strengthens. And And more than that, you start choosing more wisely who comes in, who stays, and who never returns. Because someone who has learned to stand strong alone no longer sells themselves for scraps of attention and doesn't shrink to fit into the world of someone who didn't know how to love them. And here comes the next step on the journey, remembering that letting go is an act of self-love, not weakness. Because now that you no longer depend on anyone's approval, it's time to understand that letting go for good is not giving up, it's growth. You don't need someone to come back to feel worthy. You just need to look at yourself with the eyes you always hoped they'd use. And when you do that, the need disappears. And in its place, true self-respect is born. Remember that letting go is an act of self-love, not weakness. Letting go is not weakness. It's emotional maturity. It's one of the greatest signs of inner strength a person can give themselves. And yet, many people resist this final step because they confuse letting go with giving up. But there's a huge difference between giving up on someone and choosing yourself. Stoic philosophy shows us that letting go doesn't mean abandoning. It means accepting. Accepting that the story has reached its end. Accepting that you deserve peace. Accepting that loving yourself is more important than insisting on being loved by someone who doesn't see your worth. Seneca said, "True wealth lies in needing little and living in tranquility." And sometimes that little is precisely the absence of someone who only brought chaos into your life. You think you need their presence to feel whole, but in truth, their absence may be the beginning of your true healing. Epictetus, with his surgical clarity, wrote, "Freedom is not found in having everything, but in needing little." And this applies to relationships too. When you desperately need someone to feel complete, you've lost the center of your inner strength. Letting go is reclaiming that center. It's saying, "I choose what brings me peace, even if it hurts at first." It's realizing that holding on to what hurts you isn't love. It's self-abandonment. Many people think that maintaining the bond is a sign of strength, but Stoic strength isn't in resisting the end. It's in welcoming the end as part of life. Once again, Marcus Aurelius guides us. Do not resist change. It is part of nature. You've changed. The other person has changed. The relationship has changed. And pretending everything is the same only distances you from the person you're becoming. Letting go is, in fact, a reunion with yourself. You release the other and return to you. You let go of the story and begin writing another, one with more truth, more awareness, more dignity. And that decision, that surrender, that choice is self-love in its purest form. You stop chasing, stop waiting, stop bleeding to prove you're enough, and you begin to nourish yourself, to rebuild, to treat yourself the way you wish they had treated you. And this leads us to the final point of this Stoic journey, using Stoic philosophy to build a new version of yourself. Because now that you've let go, forgiven, listened to yourself, and grown stronger, it's time to reinvent. Time to stop being the one who survived and start being the one who blooms. You're not abandoning anyone, you're rescuing yourself. And that is the most Stoic, the most courageous, the most necessary choice anyone can make. Using Stoic philosophy to build a new version of yourself. You've made it this far, and you're no longer the same. After everything you've lived, everything you've felt, everything you've silently endured, now you have two options. You either define yourself by the pain or rebuild yourself through wisdom. And it's in this moment that Stoicism stops being just a philosophical concept and becomes a way of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "Not for others, but for himself. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, you become what you feed inside. And now that you've let go of who hurt you, now that you no longer depend on anyone's approval, you have the rare opportunity to repaint your inner world with new colors. And this new version of yourself doesn't arise from anger or revenge. It's born from silence, reflection, and a deep commitment to your truth. Epictetus said, "Don't ask for things to happen as you wish. Wish for them to happen as they do, and all will be well." The new version of you is not someone who will never be hurt again, but someone who, even when hurt, chooses not to be distorted by it. You will no longer be the one who begs, who waits, who bleeds inside for scraps. You will be the one who knows their worth and acts from it. Seneca, in his timeless clarity, wrote, "Life is like a play. It's not about how long it lasts, but how well it is performed." And now, it's your time to step back on stage, not as a broken character, but as someone who turned every scar into wisdom, every silence into insight, every loss into foundation. Stoic philosophy isn't an escape from pain, it's a path through it. It's the compass you can use whenever you feel lost. It's the anchor when the world tries to pull you off center. It's the invisible sword that cuts through illusion and makes room for your true self. And this new version of you has a clear commitment to live with presence, with clarity, with integrity. You will no longer be driven by impulse, manipulated by guilt, or led by wounds. You will choose with calm, with clarity, with stoicism. This new version of you has nothing left to prove. It simply lives with purpose, with self-respect, and with the certainty that true strength comes from within, and no one can take that from you. You are not what was done to you. You are what you choose to become from this moment forward. And the good news is, you've already begun. Every step of this journey was a silent construction of your new identity. You didn't just let someone go. You rescued yourself, and now you're ready to live with lightness, purpose, and stoic wisdom. Do you know what the true sign is that you finally let someone go? It's not when you stop remembering. It's when you remember and it no longer hurts, when the memory doesn't sting, when the thought doesn't weigh you down. Because in that quiet moment, you realize you're no longer carrying the pain, you're carrying the lesson. And that, my friend, is freedom. But before we end this video, there's something you need to know. The pain will try to come back. Your mind will try to sabotage you. Your heart will want to romanticize what you already know once broke you. So stay aware, because the real test isn't the goodbye, it's what comes after. It's when the silence arrives, when the memories come knocking, when you start questioning if you made the right choice. And in that moment, you'll need to remember everything we talked about today. You are not weak for feeling, you are strong for continuing. And if you've made it this far, it means that deep inside, there's already a new version of you ready to be born. Now, I want to invite you to do something. If this video touched you, if it spoke to parts of you that you didn't even know were still alive, share it with someone who might need to hear this too. That simple act of sharing could be the first step in someone else's transformation. And if you felt that this content helped you in any way, consider subscribing to this channel. Every week, I bring deep reflections inspired by Stoic philosophy to help you live with more clarity, more strength, and more peace. Your journey doesn't end here, it's just beginning, and I'll walk it with you. See you in the next video. Stay strong, stay light, stay stoic.